Hello, welcome to Mills and Zoldak Potter Studio in Portsmouth, New Hampshire. I've got a challenge for you today. It's a mug body challenge. If you're interested in figuring out how to throw better, this is the exercise that can do it for you. You have to be willing to buy into it. It's going to take a little time to figure out, but every time you do it, you will get better and better and better at it. The challenge is generally to make as many mug bodies as you can in an hour. But for now, I'm going to aim for 12. I don't think it'll take as long as you might think it will, so we're going to do it while we're talking, and I'm also going to start my timer to see how long it takes once I get going. So, here we go. So this challenge means you're going to prepare at least as many balls of clay as you think you can throw in an hour. And for me, I know I can throw 24 in an hour without working too hard at it because I've had quite a lot of practice at doing this. And I love to make mugs. So if you think 6 sounds like a lot to make in an hour, then I would start aiming for 6. You're going to get all your clay ready. I wedged up 3 large lumps of 4 pounds each, and then I divided that into 4 pieces. So each of my pieces of clay is going to be roughly 1 pound. There's going to be a little bit of variety in it because I didn't weigh out each piece individually. But the goal is to make the same shape over and over and over for 1 hour, as many as you think you can, or to improve your skill, you have to set your sights a little higher than that. So if today you think, oh, I might be able to get 6, well then you should start with 6, and the next time you do this, next week or next month, maybe you add 2 more to that and you'll do 8 or even 10 if you thought that went pretty well. So that's the challenge. I'm going to work on a mug similar to this. They don't have to be identical. Remember, we're aiming for the same shape and that they should all feel like they belong to the same family. There's a reason for doing this exercise, and that's because you're going to get better at doing all those things. And every time you do this exercise, they will look a little bit more and more like they belong to the same family. So, we're potters for a reason, and we're making handmade work, and that means that no 2 pieces are going to be the same. So how do we make a set of anything? You have to figure out how your muscles work and what's going to give you the most efficiency and help you get your muscle memory going to be able to do these tasks over and over again. No potter just makes 1 mug. We're all making more than 1. I'd venture to say a dozen or more even. So it's in our best interest to be able to do this and do it well. And so this isn't about speed. This exercise is designed to help you set goals and figure out how to meet them. And in doing that, your eyes and your mind and your hands are going to figure out what the essence of throwing is for you and the forms you want to make. And that's really going to help make your work more personal. So we're going to do this over and over and over. It sounds like that could be a lot for some people to take in. I've heard some people say, oh, I could never make that many. I would get bored. But I give you this challenge as a way to embrace what it means to learn how to do this process, that you cannot escape the need for muscle memory in doing this. I suppose you could take 15 or 20 minutes to make make a mug if you really wanted to, and I probably do in the end, getting handles on them, doing all the decorating that I do. That takes a long time. And so where you can be efficient and find the essence of what it takes to do these tasks, that's what this exercise really gets you. You're paying attention to how you center the clay, how you pull the wall, how you finish the surface. All those are going to add up to give you more information for all of the forms that you are eventually going to be throwing. So that muscle memory is going to kick into gear, and in addition to that, you're going to be paying attention to just how your hands work for every step of the way. If you don't know how many times it takes you to pull a wall to make a cylinder, well, you should probably pay attention to that. If it takes you 10 tries, you got to try and get it down to 6 or 8 maybe. And every time you do it, you have to ask yourself why. And so this exercise really helps focus that. You have to be present for this whole exercise. I'm talking to you while I'm doing this because I've been at this for 30 years. This design has already been done in my head. This is actually the shape I just started making this summer. So the essence of making forms on the wheel is in my muscles, and I know what to do, and I know how to do it, and it becomes second nature. When your brain doesn't have to be involved in the making part of it, I can dive into the designing part and the finishing part, and allow myself to take a little extra time to do those steps. So I'm trying to center these pieces of clay with the same number of movements each time. I'm trying to open the wall with the same number of pushes and stretch that wall up tall also with the same number of pulls. And sometimes you might need an extra, or sometimes you might surprise yourself. And how you pay attention to that is really what's going to help you get better at everything you do. I'm sure I hear some of you saying, I don't have enough clay to do that, or I don't have enough time. But the goal here is to get better at your throwing. So every time you commit to an exercise like this, you're going to get better at it. And you're going to give yourself more time to make better pots in the end. And I think it's worth doing that. You don't really need more than 12, 14, 16, 18 pounds of clay to do this exercise either, right? There are no goals here except to get through the clay and try and be as consistent as you can be. And you're going to repeat the exercise every little while until you feel better about that. You don't have to keep anything that you make in an exercise. You might discover something really new and different about the way you throw, or a new form even in doing these exercises. But you can throw a new shape, try and do it as 6, 8, 10, 12, whatever times, and then you can wedge them right back up. Take them right to the wedging board and put them right back into a big ball of clay in your bag and ready for the next time you want to sit down at the wheel, whether it's doing an exercise or making some pots that you even want to keep. So this is an exercise that can see you through quite a lot. I like I said, I've been a potter for 30 years, but I still use this as a measure of how I'm going to work, how I'm going to achieve the goals I want to achieve in my studio on any given day. If I didn't know that I could make this many mugs in an hour, I wouldn't know how to plan my day. And as a professional, I kind of need to know that. Helps you with getting through all the goals of being an artist. When you can set all of those parameters up for yourself, relieves your brain of having to think it up as you're going, and lets you focus on the task that's at hand. So if you think you're throwing and you're taking 10 pulls to get a cylinder, you have to say to yourself, pull harder, push harder, move faster, move slower. Whatever the thing is that's different than what you've been doing, you have to ask yourself to do that. And the only way to figure that out is to just keep on doing it. So this is a shape. A couple of them, this one seems a little taller. I'd like it a little bit wider on the next one. So a straight shape is a little more challenging to get off the wheel, but using my rib tool allows that surface moisture to be scraped right off, and mostly cleaning off my hands on my towel so that they're mostly clean and dry. And that helps me grab that pot right off the wheel and set it aside on the board. So I've been talking and throwing for 10 minutes, and I have six mugs already made. So that's a good sign. 20 minutes. 20 minutes, I'd have a dozen of these mug bodies done. So that was my first pull up the wall. There's my second pull. I knew I only wanted to finish it in 2 pulls, so I gave it a good bit of pressure at the start and moved that clay right up. I said earlier I can make 24 mugs in an hour pretty easily, talking and thinking about this and out loud. Believe it or not, slows me down just a little bit, but that's all reasonable time frame. So I've done this exercise with classes before, and I've had ranked beginner students succeed very, very well at this by just being able to focus on the task at hand and those students asking themselves to meet the task. Professionals who I've done this with, somebody might be able to make, well, I've been with people who made 100 in an hour. That's pretty impressive, of course, although not necessary for most of us. So I'm pretty happy being able to get 2 or 3 dozen in an hour when I've set myself to a mug making kind of day. It's pretty satisfying to see a table full of forms. I don't always make the same mug all day long. I wouldn't necessarily make 3 dozen of the same form, but I use the size of my wear boards as a bit of a guide, and so I like to fill the wear board with one design, and maybe I get 2 wear boards out of that. That way, if there's some accident that happens, I'll still have a dozen left of them. So this clay is white stoneware clay that I'm planning on firing in the wood burning kiln. It's a really nice clay to throw. This is Laguna's B-Mix 10, and I also work with brown stoneware clay, and so I'll do this exercise again and have a brown clay body to work with as well. Once you've got your assignments and your exercises for throwing, then you have to take them to the next step and think about what that's going to be when they're done, what kind of pattern you have on it, how you're going to fire it, what glazes go on it, and all of that information. Once you've figured out your shape and your throwing, you can spend a lot of time thinking about how you want to glaze them and what's going to be most effective for the shapes you've picked. Another, I'm a teacher at heart, and a thing that I've been known to say is, I can make anything a reason to work in series. And that's what this is all about. Because not only, once you start keeping these, not only do you have more pots to experiment with design work, but then you'll also have room to experiment with glazing as well. Students often don't feel like they're not as successful glazing because they don't have a lot of practice. And just like with making pots, you need a lot of pots to practice that step too. So give yourself some time to do this exercise, maybe once a week, maybe every other week, maybe once a month. Figure out what your time frame looks like in the studio, and like with any other exercise, committing to doing it, carving out the space to do it. Need a little prep time to get the clay ready, but then it's just an hour, just 1 hour to throw as many forms as you can. So you can do what I've done. I set my stopwatch to count how long it takes me to do this, but you could just as well look at a clock and say every 10 minutes you're going to use your wire and cut your piece off the wheel and start the next one. And there's something that happens to the brain when you do that. It's not anywhere near as much pressure as you might think it is on yourself to do that. Your brain actually tends to respond to that. At least that's been my experience with students, is they all respond to that well. You don't like to take this off when it's not ready to be taken off. And so you will find a way to get that piece a little bit farther by the next 10 minutes. It doesn't take very many tries for your brain to really kick into gear and to want to succeed. I think it's really about setting up those parameters to help you get there and having that goal set to guide you. So once you've gotten this exercise going, you can do it over and over for new shapes even. You can use it as an exercise to develop new shapes or to practice new shapes, or to increase your scale. You could do it with larger pieces of clay as well. And once you've got that going, you'll be able to figure out how to set goals for all the other parts of your process as well, from making and decorating, for reaching new goals of scale or function, or whether you want to build sculpture or make functional work. You have to set that up in your brain or in your sketchbook before you start tackling it, and having that goal is going to really help get you there. So I have one last piece of clay, and it's only been 18 minutes. So I'm going to put this piece of clay on. This is the last one of my dozen. I'm glad you stuck it out with me, because I think it's kind of valuable to watch somebody else throw in series. Like, again, this is not about making a lot of work or making yourself go faster. It's about paying attention to what you're doing, what your rhythms are, how to develop that muscle memory by doing this over and over again, finding what that essence is. And once you've captured that, you're going to be able to make anything your heart desires, from simple to complex forms. So I hope you'll give this a go. I think it's a lot of fun too, actually. So there we have it. 1 dozen mugs in 19 minutes, 48 seconds by my count. So give it a go. Trust yourself. Allow yourself to practice. Allow yourself to fail. That's how you're going to learn. Don't worry about going through the bottoms. Don't worry if they're cockeyed. Line them up on your board as you go, and every time I promise you, you'll get better. Let me know how it goes, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.